All right, here I am at Aliens Day 2, first section, Corporate War, and here I'll put up my section of 5, or list of 5 things I'm going to talk about. Here we go. Okay, so Corporate War, this is also something which needs to be addressed. And Cameron, hates the suits and so on, and he carries this into Avatar. And that's fine. The problem is that it tends to demonize the people, but not the system. And I think that he gets closest maybe with this meeting, although, yeah.
Now you freely admit to detonating the engines of and thereby destroying an M-class star freighter, a rather expensive piece of hardware.
42 million in adjusted dollars. That's minus payload, of course.
The lifeboat's flight recorder corroborates some elements of your account, in that, for reasons unknown, the Nostromo set down on LV-426, an unsurveyed planet at that time, that it resumed its course and was subsequently set for self-destruct by you for reasons unknown.
Not for reasons unknown. I told you. We sat down there on company orders to get this thing, which destroyed my crew and your expensive ship.
So the meeting essentially establishes that this is a corporate issue, and they are just not concerned about the loss of human life, because basically it's really a matter of, the M-class star freighter and the loss of the ore that they lost because they were mining. And she's focused on what's happening behind her, which is they're showing images or biographies, basically, of the people that we have seen get killed in the first movie. Okay, this concept of then who has value in the eyes of capital, and Weyland-Yutani, the first film was a distinct critique of capitalism because they're all workers, and the most sympathetic workers really are Parker and Brett, who are played by Harry Dean Stanton and Yaphet Kotto. And they are great. I mean, boy, they're just so good. They know they're being screwed, and they want to change the deal, basically. And so there's a lot of discussion about labor in the first film, about what they're going to get paid. And of course, in this sort of typical horror film sort of way, I think it's Ash who says, everybody will get what's coming to them. And who else, yes, truer than you can imagine. So here's this meeting, and then we roll into the discussion between Burke and Hicks about who's in charge. And Ripley is right, as usual, but she's putting Hicks in a dreadful situation. So watch this discussion, I'll come back to it.
Look, let's just bug out and call it even, okay? What are we talking about this for?
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Fucking A.
Oh, hold on 1 second. This installation has a substantial dollar value attached to it.
They can bill me.
Okay, look. This is an emotional moment for all of us, okay? I know that. But let's not make snap judgments, please. This is clearly an important species we're dealing with, and I don't think that you or I or anybody has the right to arbitrarily exterminate them.
Wrong.
Yeah, watch us.
Hey, maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal.
Look, I'm not blind to what's going on, but I cannot authorize that kind of action. I'm sorry.
Well, I believe Corporal Hicks has authority here.
Corporal Hicks is...
This operation is under military jurisdiction, and Hicks is next in chain of command. Am I right, Corporal?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Look, Rickley, this is a multi-million-dollar installation, okay? He can't make that kind of decision. He's just a grunt. No offense.
None taken. Pharaoh, do you copy?
Standing by.
Prep for dust-off. We're gonna need immediate evac.
Roger. On our way.
Say we take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Okay. All right. So what we just see here is that Burke, it is a military command. And when the military is in command, they're in command. So that means that the person who is the lowest chain of command, doesn't matter whether it's a general or it's a colonel or it's a corporal, they're in command. And that's what Ripley knows. And she's going by the letter of the law. And she says, no, I believe that Corporal Hicks is in command. Now, asking a corporal, what she's doing here is not at all a good deal for Hicks, because she's asking him to take moral responsibility for the thing and blow up the planet, basically. Which is problematic as well, because Cameron does tend to use nuclear fires as solutions for big problems. We'll talk about that. So she really puts Hicks on the hot spot, on the hot seat, no pun intended there, because it's the end of him when he makes this call. And that's what Burke says. I mean, Burke says, he doesn't have the authority to make this call. And then he makes the big mistake of calling him a dumb grunt. And so each generation of soldiers has sort of come to its own term, affectionate, sort of sometimes derogatory term for the soldier. In World War One, in Britain, it was a doughboy. For the French, it was the poilu, Poilu. I'm trying to remember what the Germans called them. But basically, everybody had sort of the name for the person who just went and did what they were told, and they were basically a good citizen. They were good for just they shouldered the load. And they just went and did it. And in the Second World War in America, it was the dog face, and that has sort of gone away. And then with a new terminology that came from the Korean War, which was adapted and used again in the Vietnam War, it became grunt, which was very, very real. It's sort of just like, why grunts? And this comes up in Platoon, where nobody really knows exactly why these terms came up, but they're used and they're recognized as being accurate. Essentially, they feel right. And this is one of the fascinating things about seeing language develop, which you can see with English. Most languages develop like this. They sort of produce new words, new coinages. Not all, but some do. English is amazing for this. Okay, and so when he turns to Hicks and says, no offense, like, well, that's it for you, buddy, So Hicks makes the call, and he sides with Ripley, and that's the beginning of the relationship between Ripley and Hicks. Okay, he has her trust, and it's all good from there. The final piece is this one. Okay, have a look.
Look, those two specimens are worth millions to the bioweapons division, right? Now, if you're smart, we can both come out of as heroes, and we will be set up for life.
You're crazy, Bert. Do you know that? Do you really think you can get a dangerous organism like that past ICC quarantine?
How can they impound it if they don't know about it?
But they will know about it, Burke. From me. Just like they'll know that you were responsible for the deaths of 157 colonists.
Wait a second.
You sent them to that ship.
You're wrong.
I just checked the colony log. Directive dated 6/12/79, signed Burke, Carter J. You sent them out there and you didn't even warn them. Why didn't you warn them, Burke?
Okay, look. What if that ship didn't even exist? Did you ever think about that? I didn't know. So now if I went and made a major security situation out of it, everybody steps in, administration steps in, and there's no exclusive rights for anybody. Nobody wins. So I made a decision, and it was wrong. It was a bad call, Ripley. It was a bad call.
Bad.
And here is the essentially, remember that Ripley in the first film was a young lieutenant. And so she knew what she was doing. So this is the kind of person who's going to be a general. But she gets kicked out of the command structure, right? Because she did the wrong thing. That she tried to save her life and the lives of the crew, and in the end, blew up the alien, which makes her a heroic person in the eyes of the watchers, the audience. but not by the company's standards, who would look at her and say, you haven't proven anything, and as far as we're concerned, you owe us a lot of money, and you're done. And so they turn her into a worker, right? A worker bee. And of course she thrives because she's going to thrive whatever she does. So she then faces down work, and it turns out that the real issue is company politics. This is the condemnation of the company. So this is the corporate war. Okay.